Welcome to The Topic on HCCTV. I'm Todd Duplantis. This is a show where we highlight Houston Community College, our partners, our programs, and our reach into the community. We're doing something a little bit different today. Before we get to the show, I want to remind you, if you're watching us on HCCTV, make sure you jump on over to our YouTube channel. Check us out, Houston Community College. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to build our viewership. And every time we have a new show like this, you'll get a notification. Also, follow us in social media, and you can download podcasts like these, the audio versions of our podcasts, at hccs.edu/podcasts. We've got a great show today, and we're talking about dealing with stressful times. You know, we're living during the COVID crisis. Many of us have been locked up for months. Some of us are returning to work virtually. How do you deal with stress? One way of dealing with stress is getting outdoors, or maybe inside, working out or going running. Well, what do you do when you're a runner and the races are now all virtual? We're living in some strange times now, but that's exactly what's happening. And we're going to talk about that for the next half hour on the show. We're joined now by Dr. Amy Tan. She's the Dean of our English and Communications departments. Good afternoon, Amy. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you were on one of our shows about a month or so ago, and we talked about mileage that you've been doing since the shutdown. I haven't tabulated my miles, but they haven't gone that far since then. I do run every day, but I don't do the type of mileage you're doing right now. How many miles have you run since the shutdown in March?
So I just tallied it just for you, and I think I'm at 1,340 miles since March 13th.
Amazing, amazing. I think I've got about maybe 650. I think I'm looking at right now, about half of that. But you know, that's an incredible feat. You started though running. You've always been a runner. As long as I've known you, you've been a runner. But you ran short distances and some marathons. But you started something over the summer with a virtual run. Talk about that and how you got started with running this incredible amount of mileage.
I realized we had a little extra time because we didn't have our commute anymore. And so I thought, well, maybe I could use this time to be more committed to my running and try to just commit to getting out there every day. And honestly, like you said, I was running 4 or 5 days a week. I would probably do 3 miles a day. And I never really thought of myself as someone who could run every single day. And so some friends of mine talked me into a virtual race, which was, it was the Great Virtual Race Across Tennessee. And we put up some pretty big numbers. You basically had to average 5.5 miles per day. And I started a week late, so I had to catch up. And then I kept, I was a little worried. I wanted to make sure I banked miles in case I needed to take a day off. Yeah. And then the next thing I knew, I was finished. So
Tennessee is pretty, it isn't the biggest state, but it's very wide. And when you're running across it, how many miles is it across the state of Tennessee that you had to get?
So I had to reach 635 miles.
Okay.
And I think we had May 1st to August 31st, and I actually finished on July 31st. So I did it in about 90 days.
Yeah, that was incredible. I know you were getting out there. The main thing, and we'll talk more about this later in the show, I always have a problem dealing with the summer heat, and I usually keep my long runs saved for the fall, winter, spring. During the summer, I just try to bear with it to keep running every day and get those few miles or so in all the time because the heat's unbearable in Houston. But you were managed. I know you were hitting like 7 miles a day average. Weekends were coming around. You were busting out 10 miles a day each day. I
was really committed. I really wanted to try to get my extra miles in on the weekend when I had a little extra time. So, same. I actually went to high school in Ohio. So, I was used to running in the cooler temperatures and, we'd be out in the snow. And so when running in Houston during the summer has always been a challenge for me. And so I just kind of had to say, all right, you've got to do it. You just got to get out there. And so I would get up at 6 a.m. when it was a little bit cooler and try to get out before the sun really came up. Started to heat everything up, and I walked a little, I won't lie.
Yeah.
I walked some of those miles.
Hey, they still count, in the
That's
end,
right.
They still count. I've got to ask you though, we started doing things a lot differently at Houston Community College back in March by delivering an education to our students online. And your teams really had to gear up pretty quickly during the spring break. Did getting out and running every morning, knowing that you're going to spend most of the day maybe in front of a computer, did that help you in dealing with the stress of being cooped up in the house and being in front of a computer all day?
100% yes. I mean, I pretty much, once my day starts, I don't get to get up. Sometimes I hardly get up to go to the kitchen and grab myself some lunch, right? So absolutely, just getting out there, getting some fresh air, running along the bayou, collecting my thoughts, thinking about the things that I knew I wanted to accomplish that day, that just really made all the difference. And I mean, otherwise, just sitting at the desk, I mean, you can just feel your muscles starting to atrophy.
Yeah, it certainly is. It can be challenging sitting at a desk all day. I know what you mean. Let's talk about the virtual runs. You've competed in one of them, but you've also signed up for a few. Did you think back in March that we would be doing virtual runs from now? And it doesn't look like, I don't know when this is going to let up. Did you think it was going to last this long and we'd be where we are right now?
I didn't. No, I don't think I really knew. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. But, you know, I was listening to a podcast just last week with the organizer, the event planner for the Boston, and he was saying he doesn't even think that Boston will run in April 2021. He thinks unless there's a vaccine and we see that the vaccine is working, that races are indefinitely postponed.
Yeah, and I know just here in Houston, the Chevron Houston Marathon, last week announced that they were going to be virtual and gave everyone an opportunity of deferring to 2022, which I've already done, which is really strange because here we are and going, in October of 2020, and I'm looking at doing a marathon in 2022. This is just crazy.
It is. It seems so far out.
Yeah, it really does. But like all races, I guess they've had to pivot and go virtual. Now, doing the virtual runs, do you log your miles, enter them in? Are they monitored? How does that work? Because there's a lot of folks, when I posted that I was going to be doing the 2022 marathon instead of the 2021 virtual, a lot of folks are saying, hey, you should have taken the virtual because maybe you could have won this year. It doesn't work that way.
So it really depends on the race. Most of them are on the honor system where you keep track of your miles and usually you don't even have to, you just sign up, you pay your fee and they send you the medal in the mail, right? Yeah. But the one I'm participating in right now is a circumpolar race around the world, CRAW for short. It's organized by Lazarus Lake, who's famous of the Barkley Marathons. And you do have to go in every day and log your mileage. Now, it is by the honor system, and I should say it's a team race. So I'm on a team of 10, and together we hope to run 30,000 miles. It's going to take us 12 months. If we can do it in under 12, we get a gold medal. If it takes more than 12, we get the silver. We're happy with either. And then there's another race. You can use an app called Racery. And I think you do have to have like a GPS device that will upload those miles. So it really just depends on the race event that you're signing up for.
Well, Dr. Tam, we want you to stand by. I know you're busy, but if you would stick around for the rest of the show, because I want to bring you back and later on in the show. A number of nonprofit agencies planned on using runs or fun runs to help make money during these times. What happens when they go virtual? Coming up, we'll hear from Habitat for Humanity in Fort Bend County. They're up right next on The Topic. Stay tuned.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to The Topic. I'm Todd Duplantis. Once again, a reminder for those of you watching us on HCCTV, we have a YouTube channel. You can check out all of our content, all of our programming. All you need to do is find us on YouTube, Houston Community College. It's very easy. Subscribe to our channel. We'll send you notifications when shows like this are on the air and posted in our social media. Also, follow us in social media. And if you like to listen to podcasts, like many of us do, well, you can download the audio versions of this show as a podcast by logging on hccs.edu/podcasts. We're talking about running. You may say, what does running have to do with Houston Community College? Well, we have a number of professors, a number of our staff and faculty, and our students who are runners. Things are being done differently during this age of COVID. And what about nonprofit agencies? A lot of them hold races annually to raise money. What's happening during this time when things are shut down? We're going to be talking right now with Jess Holland, and she's the development director for Fort Bend Habitat for Humanity. Welcome back again to the show, Jess. It's good to have you here. We want to talk about first, let's go back and talk about the mission for the Fort Bend Habitat for Humanity. We all are very familiar with the good work that Habitat for Humanity does, but maybe you could talk about your mission out there in Fort Bend County.
Fort Bend Habitat for Humanity, we're an affiliate of Habitat International, and they are out of Maracus, Georgia, and they were founded in 1972. So every habitat in the world, which we're in 70 different countries, has a little bit of a different mission, I would say. It's all about affordable, decent, and safe housing, but depending on where we are in the country and in the world, we all have a little bit of a different program. So for us in Fort Bend County, we do have new home construction. We just dedicated our 88th new home about 2 weeks ago, and we have done over 160 disaster repairs. So when there's a hurricane or flooding or anything, windstorms, anything like that, we will go to people's homes and repair their homes. We also have now a new program called Aging in Place, where we will actually go in and help seniors repair their homes, add ADA accessibility so that seniors can age in their homes rather than having to leave.
To continue doing all the great things you guys are doing, a lot of nonprofits depend on fundraising efforts. And I know fun runs are a big deal. Have you guys, I know you have a virtual run coming up, but let me ask you this. Had you guys done fun runs in the past, or is this your first delve into these type of activities?
For Fort Bend Habitat, this is actually our first race. I was with a different habitat before I came here, and we had a fun run for 13 years straight. So this is the first one for this affiliate, but not too new to it.
So when you're with the other affiliate, I imagine the annual event starts off maybe smaller and gets larger as runners hear about it, because we all love to participate in these fun runs. When COVID started, did you imagine months ago that we would be in the situation where you'd have to do a virtual race as opposed to one in person?
No, we actually hold an annual gala, and we had that gala March 5th of this previous year. So it was right before all of this, or really the beginning of all of this. And I knew as the development director that there was going to be no way that we were going to be holding in-person events and packing 400 people into a ballroom. So like the professor, I also do a lot of virtual runs. And the latest one that I did was a marathon. So there was a team of 8 of us that ran across the country that stopped at different national parks the whole way across and different landmarks. And when we were brainstorming what we could do, that was my first thought. Virtual runs are extremely fun, and I love collecting the hardware too. So that's it was a pretty neat idea to come up with.
Now, what's been the reaction from the community with when you announced the virtual run? Have you guys had a lot of running groups that have been interested, or the community in general?
I think the community is really interested. I think that a lot of nonprofits, there were already a lot of virtual races and virtual companies out there with themes. Right now, there's like turkey trot and pumpkin spice runs and that kind of stuff. So I think we didn't realize how much competition there was going to be with the types of races and how many people switched to virtual races. But I think the hardest part isn't getting registrants, but finding sponsors for the event. I mean, everybody was hit so hard during the pandemic. So, but with that, virtual races for a nonprofit, they're actually also less expensive to put on. When you put on when we put on a 5K in person, you know, $30,000, and for a virtual run, you could spend as little as like $500, $1,000 to host a virtual race.
You brought up a really good point, and I'm glad you brought it up because I want to focus on that again. Because of the pandemic, a lot of companies have cut back on donations. I know when we had Hurricane Harvey in Houston, we had a situation where a lot of nonprofits were facing a hard time, not just after the hurricane ended, but for the next year to 18 months, because a lot of their donors were simply using the funds for their own organization or business. As a nonprofit, that's got to be something that's terrifying because we're still in a pandemic. And like you said, finding sponsors right now is difficult during these times.
It is. You know, every nonprofit is very different of what percentage of their operating budget comes from different types of sources. So some rely heavily on government grants, some foundations, some have, like for us, we have the Restore, which is a resale shop for building materials and furniture, appliances, that type of stuff. So we are fortunate enough that we have a diverse portfolio, if you want to call it. We don't use a lot of government funding, but I mean, even now today, we still have funding for Harvey, and we are still even helping people with Harvey damage. So I think we're lucky, but at the same time too, I'm in the development, and we're all working from home. I go into the office like 2 hours a week, and hosting this virtual event and having a fundraiser is also, you know, it's something that I can do from my house. So it's hard right now as a development director to raise funds other than trying to write grants. A lot of our grants have been, you know, turned away because those funds are now being used for COVID related purposes. Yeah. So when it comes to repairing houses or building new homes, it's just not the priority right now, and rightfully so.
Well, rightfully so, but reality is people still need their homes repaired, and people still need a home to live in. And, you know, as you just mentioned, as we know here at HCC, there are a number of folks, including many of our students, who are still recovering from Harvey. So the need's still there, even though we're in a pandemic.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of we have the disaster side of things, but we also do a lot of critical home repairs, and they can be all kinds of things, whether it is somebody who got into an accident and now needs a ramp in order to access their front door. If a pipe bursts and, you know, floods, if there's a hole in their roof, it doesn't really fall under disaster repair, but yeah, we do. We have a great team, and we go out and try to help as many people that we can. We've even started doing repairs outside of Fort Bend County because, you know, we're all a community. We're all the Houston area. We all have different impacts, whether it's the weather or financially, and we want to be there to help everyone. So yes, we absolutely need funds, but we also know that right now things are cooling down a little bit. And we've actually, we started a development. So the George Foundation actually donated to us a 6.5 acre tract of land. And this fall is when we were beginning building the new homes for that development. It's called Hope on the Brazos. So we already had this project going on and funding for this project. So we'll be okay.
If folks want to join your virtual run, where can they do so, and where can they find it?
So for our virtual run, it actually started on October 5th, and it runs through the end of the month. We started on October 5th because it was World Habitat Day. So the UN anointed that as World Habitat Day, and we are shedding light on the need for affordable housing, especially in the Houston area. And you can go to charityfootprints.com/raise the roof. It's a 5K, 10K, half marathon, whatever you would like. Comes with a commemorative t-shirt, and our race medal is actually a belt buckle. So
very cool.
Of that. Yeah. So I haven't seen that. So yeah, we're doing a belt buckle for, you know, Texas. And it also comes with a sticker and your race bib. So the registration is $35. You can do it as an individual, or you can even create a team You can fundraise for us, all kinds of options. So it's pretty cool.
We will have the link in the social media post for the show and also during the show as well. All right, Jess, if you stick around, we're going to bring back on Dr. Amy Tan in a few minutes. We're going to talk from an athlete's perspective. What's it like running during the time of COVID? How do you train for this? How do you deal with it? Virtual runs, what are they all about? And how do you train for them? All that and more coming up on The Time.
College is on at HCC. Whether you choose to learn online, on campus, or both, HCC offers a safe, flexible, affordable college experience. Register now at hccs.edu/college your way.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
There's no better place to knock out the basics than HCC. Whether you learn online, on campus, or both, HCC is the safe, flexible, affordable option. Register now at hccs.edu/college your way.
Welcome back to The Topic. I'm Todd Duplantis. Once again, always a reminder, download our audio podcasts of this show and others at hccs.edu/podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Houston Community College on YouTube. We look forward to seeing you in the future. And of course, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and get shows like this, a notification as soon as they are out there. We're talking about virtual running today. Well, running, in a virtual world, races are going on and they're happening across the city online. You can't do them in person. So we've got a couple of folks here today that are talking about that. Dr. Amy Tan, who is the Dean of Communications and English here at Houston Community College, also an avid runner. Thanks again for being here, Amy.
Love being here. Thanks for having me.
And once again, Jess Holland, she joins us, and she is the one of the directors, the development director for Fort Bend Habitat for Humanity. Welcome back. So ladies, I want to ask you, and I'm going to start with you, Amy. Let's talk about the whole virtual run thing once again. You've signed up for another one of them. Jess has got one going on through her organization. Do you see these being when we get back to somewhat of a normal life, whatever that's going to look like, do you see this being a wave of the future where there'll be more of these and more popularity in the future?
I think so. I think a lot of people, what they like about it is the flexibility and convenience, right? I think a lot of people run precisely because they can run out their front door, right? I always tell people, the reason that I ended up running is because I had little kids, and if I had to drive somewhere to exercise, it probably wasn't going to happen. And that's not to say that of course I loved going to Memorial Park or Buffalo Bayou, but I have to plan that. So, for my everyday run out the front door. So I really think people are going to go for that convenience, and I agree with Jess. I think people like the hardware.
Yeah, I've got a lot of that in my cabinet. You've been running most of your life, though?
I have, which is crazy to think about. Yes.
Because I think I started exactly 10 years ago. I hadn't ran around the block, and I started 10 years ago running. So that was,
That's amazing.
10 years ago, it was summer.
It was summer?
During the summer, and I'm like, this is crazy. Why does anyone want to do this? It's hot out here. I don't care if it's Memorial Park. It's hot. But I had
exactly. Yeah, actually, I was a soccer player, and so I played soccer as long as I could. And then when I started having kids, that kind of wasn't a possibility anymore. So running became, that became the thing. But like you, I think in terms of actually running races, about a decade ago.
Okay. And Jess, you mentioned you're a runner as well. You've done marathons across the country, which is pretty cool if you ask me, with a team.
Yes. So I actually grew up playing different sports, but I too was a soccer player and a skier. And then I was an intern for the Olympic Committee and working with winter sports. So it took me to Utah. I worked for the U.S. ski team, and there's a lot of cyclists, a lot of runners, and I love trail running. For me, it was hard running on the roads. I don't think my knees just don't like it anymore. So sometimes I do cycling instead of running, but running has to be my favorite.
Well, let me ask you both this, ladies. What tips would you give for people training virtually? Because I'm going to get to my dilemma in just a moment, but I'll start with you, Jess. If you got some tips for people who are runners, who are trying to train for virtual races, what tips would you give them right now?
Oh, geez. Hydrate, first and foremost. I actually got into it. I think the hardest part, it's kind of like whenever you go from high school to college, is having someone there to for time management and to keep you on track. Because sometimes when you sign up for a virtual race, you can do it anytime, anywhere. Sometimes I forget about them and I miss the deadline because I sign up for quite a few. You can do shorter races or longer races, but the easiest thing for me and the best thing for me was I got a Garmin watch.
Yeah.
And I started tracking everything. It tracks your sleeping, it converts your, cycling miles into running miles. And it was like that motivation. It's like,
I know. You track.
Yes, exactly.
Every day. I know.
And like I would wear it every day, and then I started wearing athletic clothes every single day, even to the office. And it just, in what your attire, for some reason, it's like, oh wait, I'm in leggings. I got to run today.
Right,
so
sure.
it would remind me, because like I too have children and a job, and we actually have like a small farm. So the animals take up a lot of our time.
Yeah,
It's
you
hard
got to make
stay on
time for
track.
the running though. And if it doesn't show up on Garmin, it doesn't count. And Dr. Stan knows all about that as well.
That's right. I've had a couple of missed miles because my Garmin cut out on me, and that's the age-old question. If Garmin didn't record it, does it exist?
It's a crime. It's a crime. Real quickly, Amy, if you've got a quick tip you could give somebody as a runner, what would you tell them training for these virtual races?
One thing that I do for myself that helps me get out the house is I actually put my running clothes. I put all my stuff that I need for my run like right by my bed. And if I do that at night, then I just jump out of bed and I can get out of the house in the morning.
Yep. Yeah. That makes all the difference in the world. I started doing that several months ago. I got it in my closet so I can grab them, put them on before I do anything else. So my dilemma is training for virtual races. Okay. But I'd signed up last year. I've done an Ironman, 2 of them. And last year we signed up for 2020. They canceled it a month before. Then we deferred to 2021 thinking it's going to happen. What do I do now? Because I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Do I train for this Ironman? Because it takes a lot of your time. And so that's our big dilemma. My wife and I train together, and, do we put in the time, or, because more than likely it's going to get canceled anyway. So that's the main dilemma. It could be a situation like the Houston Marathon.
I mean, I feel you. I know exactly. I had the same back and forth about the marathon. I was like, okay, do I start my training? Do I get serious? And I think what I decided to do is I was going to focus on one thing. So instead of trying to go out and like work on my speed and my endurance, the thing I'm going to work on right now is consistency and the mileage.
Yeah, consistent. That means all the thing. Amy, Dr. Amy Tam, we want to thank you for joining us. Jess Holland from Fort Bend Habitat for Humanity, thank you for joining us. We appreciate the work that both of you do, and get out there and run. Jess, good luck with the virtual run. We'll have the information in our social media post. And I want to thank all of you for joining us on the topic today. We'll see you next week. I'm Todd Duplantis. Have a great week.